Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my first impressions review of the MCU Disney Plus series Loki. So, I think I said at one point that I probably wasn't going to watch this because I wasn't interested because of not being a fan of Loki as a character, at least in the MCU. But I decided after WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's like I'll give it a chance, see how it goes. Maybe it'll impress me, or at least entertain me enough to keep me wanting to go the entire time. Um, and either way, I have heard that this is actually going to be excessively important to the MCU's future movies. So either way, I'd be finding out what happened. And it's like one episode a week. I can handle that. So I watched the first episode, and I wasn't surprised by what I thought of it. In my opinion, and I know this might be an unpopular opinion, which, I'm used to having, this was the weakest of the first episodes for the three MCU Disney Plus shows we've had so far. Um, it's weaker than WandaVision and definitely weaker than Falcon and the Winter Soldier's first episodes. That is not to say it was bad, it was just the weakest of the three. It was, I'd say it was actually good. It was acceptable, but it had notable issues that completely took me out of the immersion. And so let's talk about this. So, Loki is a series centering around the character in the MCU, the fictional god of mischief. Um, and basically, his adventures working with the TVA to deal with time related anomalies and whatnot. We see post the events of. Oh, and I'm going to say, right off the bat, there are going to be spoilers. I almost forgot to say that. There are spoilers for episode 1 of Loki. If you have not seen episode 1 of Loki yet, I would definitely suggest checking it out before it because there will be spoilers. Okay. I almost forgot that. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So Loki begins, we see the events of the first Avengers movie. We see kind of this aftermath scene of Loki being brought into custody and everything, when all of a sudden, a bunch of shit goes down to where Loki gets his hands on the Tesseract, allowing him to teleport away. He teleports through time and space to get to, I think it's Oklahoma? I'm not 100%. No, no, no. No, that's later on. Sorry. He goes to the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. And he just kind of there when all of a sudden these people come out of these portals in midair and apprehend him by slowing down his time. Like this lady, this badass lady comes out, just socks him right in the face, and afterwards, all the time is slowed down to like a 13th of a second or something like that. I forget exactly what she said. But he's feeling all of the pain of that punch in real time. And while he's slowed down, she puts this collar over him and brings him to the TVA. The TVA is this time organization. They are dedicated to basically ruling over the flow of time and making sure everything goes according to plan. Basically, it definitely brings upon the ideas of the question of free will versus destiny and whatnot, and questioning whether or not like everything's preordained. It's a really deep conversation that I'm not going to take the time to go into here, but this episode definitely touches on that a bit there. So Loki is brought into the TVA. He has to go through these little minor rooms and all getting put into a special outfit, having to sign over some paperwork based on everything he's ever said, stuff like that. He ends up getting to this line where there's a ticket he has to pull, and that's when he sees how powerful things are there, because this one other guy there who doesn't have a ticket and refuses to get one, refuses to present one, ends up getting seemingly erased from existence, which freaks Loki out because it would freak anyone out. But we also, at this time, meet Mobius, who is played by Owen Wilson. And herein lies one of my notable issues with this first episode, at least. Owen Wilson cannot be taken seriously. I like Owen Wilson as an actor. He's a great comedic actor. He's funny. He's very likable. And his character here has a comedic edge to him. But in terms of the MCU, in terms of the tone that the MCU has always gone for, even with WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even with WandaVision doing its weird thing, Owen Wilson just doesn't feel natural here. Even with the fact that he looks different because he has the different hairstyle and everything, has the mustache, he just doesn't fit in, and it feels so out of place for him to be there. Seeing him interact with Loki feels so wrong. It feels off, and it's not even so much on Owen Wilson himself. It's just because of his acting style. It's because of the way he speaks, even the way he just acts. It's not really his fault. It's not what the MCU has been like, and it, at least for me, just completely throws me off the immersion because I feel like I'm watching Owen Wilson rather than the character Mobius. And I don't usually have this problem with Owen Wilson. It's just because of how vastly different and out of place he feels in this world, in the MCU, that it throws me off. And because of it, like I said, I can't take him seriously at all. I can't take his character seriously. I don't believe he belongs here. He feels, like I said, so out of place that it completely breaks the immersion for me. But we'll move on from that for the moment and talk about what else. So, Mobius is an agent for the TVA, and he seems to be kind of a more eccentric one. We find out that he works with the most extreme cases and stuff, and he agrees to take on Loki. Loki goes to this court appointment and is found guilty, but Mobius agrees to take him on instead and to use him, to utilize him and his skills. The judge agrees, though not entirely easily, and they get to talk. Loki is Loki. He's as ornery and just uncooperative as ever. And Mobius tries to get to the bottom of this, tries to talk to him, tries to get him to talk. But nothing much really comes of it. At one point, Mobius gets distracted by the badass lady we saw before, and Loki escapes. And there's this entire runaround in the TVA HQ where it's like Loki threatens this guy named Casey about gutting him like a fish. Casey doesn't know what a fish is. It's funny, haha. And eventually, Loki is apprehended and everything. And after he sees this this video play out showing what happens in his future and all, showing what happens on the core timeline that they're trying to restore and keep in balance. And Loki, remember, this is Loki right after the events of the first Avengers, so he does not know about what happens after that. He doesn't know about Thanos, for example. But he gets to see all of this in this video presentation, this file, basically, this video file. He gets to see everything happening, even leading up to his death. And it's like, and there's points where he sees and he finds out about about the fact that he basically caused his mother's death, and he finds out about his father's death and everything. And this gets to one of my other issues with the series, because we see at this, or with the first episode at least, we see at these points and everything, Loki looks genuinely shook. He looks emotional. He looks sad, and I don't believe it for a second. And that's the issue. It's clearly trying to make it believable, but based on everything I've seen in all of these films, all of the MCU, I don't believe it for a second. Loki's entire thing is lying, tricking people, pretending. I do not for a split second believe his emotions here. It comes across as crocodile tears. And the thing is, it's clearly meant to make you believe it. It's clearly meant for you as a viewer to believe it. But I don't. I can't. And if it's real, if these emotions and everything are real, it feels like they came out of nowhere. Like they don't fit his character. Because they're so diametrically opposed to everything we've seen of Loki in the MCU up to this point. And it feels really off to me. But Loki begrudgingly agrees to work with Mobius and finds out that the variant they're hunting is also Loki. So I assume it's the Loki we saw in Infinity War, I think it is, that escaped and everything. So I guess we have like two Lokis, and who knows what's going to happen with all of that. But at the end, there's also this really interesting scene of these TVA agents being burned alive by this mysterious hooded figure, who I don't think is supposed to be the other Loki. Because if that was the case, why would they keep him in shadows like that? I think it's supposed to be something or someone else, like a completely different villain. There's also like a sword that seemed to come from the future during that scene, so I think it's someone else. I don't think that hooded figure was the other Loki. So the general idea behind this is okay, and there's some good humor. Tara Strong voices this cartoon character in the TVA, this like mascot for the TVA, and it's like, okay, that's a thing. um, there's definitely some really funny moments. There's this one joke early on. There's this detector at the TVA that Loki's going through when he's going through the early rooms and everything. And it's like, oh, this will tell us if you're a robot or not. And it's brought up that like not everyone knows or whatnot, and Loki like really just like concentrates on it. It's like, wait, not everyone knows. What if I were a robot and didn't know it? And he gets kind of freaked out about stepping through the detector, and that is actually a genuinely funny joke. I will give it that. There's also this joke where, because of the collar that Loki has on, he's able to be like moved around in time and whatnot, like able to be teleported back to where he was a few seconds before. And at one point, he kind of throws a fit and is running and everything, and Mobius teleports him back to where he was, except the chair is not there because Loki threw it, and the teleporter only teleports the person back, so he ends up falling on his ass. And it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty funny. But most of it was just very okay to me. It's like there wasn't a lot of really anything in it that was that great or that interesting or that funny. Most of it was just very meh. It had some good things, some highlights. The ending scene I talked about, for example, was actually really interesting. Definitely the most interesting part of it. But there were also some negative parts of it. Again, I just cannot reconcile Owen Wilson being in this. It just does not fit at all. Loki is completely unbelievable, and honestly, he's not really even likable still. And it's really funny to me that this is the Loki from right after the first Avengers movie, because it's like that was the last time that Loki was actually a good character in the MCU. Ever since that, he became way too overused. He kept coming back way too often, and he became oversaturated to the point that he just wasn't interesting anymore. It's like a radio station playing the same song like every hour. It's like you get sick of it. And that's definitely the same thing what happened to Loki. It's like it's just the same thing over and over again. He keeps faking his death. Nothing matters. Who gives a shit? It's the same thing just over and over and on repeat ad nauseum. And it just got boring. And unfortunately, they don't do enough here to change that. There's little hints that Loki's going to be a little more fun in this series than he was in the MCU films. Because let's be honest, for a god of mischief, he really was not that mischievous in the movies. Honestly, he really didn't feel that interesting most of the time. He didn't do enough to make him feel mischievous, like Loki should feel. Um, but it seems like they're going to lean more into that in this series, which is good, I guess. It's something at least to make him stand out a little more. Um, and honestly, we'll see how it goes. Because right now, I would not say I am invested in this series at all. Like I said, the first episode definitely weaker than the first episode of WandaVision. Definitely weaker than the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And it's just like I just feel like there's a lot they have to do to make me truly like this series. And I know it's obviously not just for me. I understand Loki is extremely popular amongst the general audience of the MCU. I understand that I have unpopular opinions here in regards to this. I get that. But my viewing experience is just as valid as anyone else's. The people who are enjoying this and love Loki and are really excited for this series and think this was the best first episode of these three MCU Disney Plus shows, that's perfectly valid. That is a perfectly valid uh, belief to have. And they have every right to that, and they should feel that because that's their truth. But my truth is, I wasn't as big a fan of it, and that I'm not as big a fan of Loki. And that's just as valid. It's all subjective. A lot of times people forget that, and I keep hammering that in all the time. It's all subjective, it's all based on personal taste. I personally am not a fan of Loki. And personally, this was the weakest of the three uh, Disney Plus shows' first episodes. But as I also said, it wasn't outright bad. It was even good, just not good enough to really invest me. It had notable issues that I can't get over. And it had good parts too, really funny jokes at a couple of occasions. And like I said, it's basically going to have to be we'll see how it goes. We will see how this goes, but I don't expect that I'll enjoy this series as much as I did Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I expect at best it'll be as much as I enjoyed WandaVision, which was very down the middle as well, to be fair. Because yeah, I remember like talking about this, um, not liking the Wanda parts of WandaVision as much as I like the stuff with Monica Rambeau. That stuff was excessively interesting. The stuff with Wanda got old really quick. Um, and I'm not going to get into a full discussion about that or anything. It's just WandaVision had a lot of great stuff to it as well. I did like WandaVision. It's just it's overrated. Let's be honest, for me at least, from my perspective, my viewing experience. Um, but yeah, so tell me down below what you thought of Loki, and that includes if you loved it a lot more than I did, because like I said, that experience is completely valid. You are completely in the right. You are completely valid. It is your truth to feel that way about this. Don't just take my review, my opinion as fact. It's just my view. It's just what I got from it, or didn't get from it, or you know the gist. um, Everyone's opinions are entirely valid and entirely right. So, yeah, just tell me your thoughts down below. And like I said, this is a first impressions review, so I won't be doing a review on every episode or anything. Probably won't end up doing like a review of the full season after it's done or anything. I might like updates occasionally on the Discord. So if you're not on the Discord server, maybe check that out. Link is in the description below. I might update occasionally on there if there's something I really feel I want to talk about in regards to it. But otherwise, yeah, this was just my first thoughts after seeing the first episode. So thank you so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.